Tonight on this primetime edition of NewsOne Now, Mo Nique, Uncensored, the Academy Award-winning actress and comedienne, sits down with me for a no-holds-barred interview to set the record straight about the blackballed controversy and her relationship with director Lee Daniels. Mo Nique also shares how her weight loss journey began, fills me in on what she's been doing the last 5 years off the big screen, and talks about the new projects she's got in the works. We've got all this and more coming up now on this primetime edition of NewsOne Now. It all began with an article in The Hollywood Reporter. After 5 years off the grid, Academy Award-winning actress Mo Nique emerged and said her friend and director Lee Daniels told her she had been blackballed in Hollywood. What resulted from Mo Nique's statements in that article were weeks' worth of allegations she was difficult to work with and that she had failed to, quote, play the game. I recently traveled to Atlanta to sit down with Mo Nique to find out where in the world she's been the last 5 years and give her a chance to clear up any confusion about what's been reported in recent weeks. So Mo Nique, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, Roland. How you doing?
Gotta ask you this here. What happened to your BET show? How is your show still on indefinite hiatus?
Roland.
No, I mean, it was because I remember when the show was, because I was on your show.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden your show gets renewed. What happened?
You know, I can answer it as honestly as I can.
Right.
Because with the Mo Nique show, it was the highest rated show in the history of that network at that time. And that show was averaging 600,000 people, which there are some shows on major network that's averaging 600,000 people. And it was a cable show. We had guests that were coming on that show that was saying, it's never been done like this before. We've never been treated like this before. And initially when the Mo Nique show started, it was, we wanted to make sure our folks had a chance to shine to our community, and we wanted to make sure folks went to bed feeling good. It was no mess, we wasn't having that. You weren't gonna come on talking about nobody. None of that. We all stood in pride, like, this is what we're doing for us. Now when you say, what happened? We got a call that it was renewed, and then one day we got a call from Laretha Jones and said the show was going on indefinite hiatus. Why? I don't have an explanation for it. Now the only person that is still at BET during the time of the Mo Nique show is Deborah Lee. And I've always told people, I don't want to assume, because I'm not good at that. So the best person to ask, what happened to the Mo Nique show would be Deborah Lee.
It has to be the longest indefinite hiatus.
It's the longest one,
so
Roland.
It was like one of the boys who was a boy who was in one of the soap operas. One episode he went upstairs and he never came
back down. That's what happened to the Mo Nique show. We went up the elevator, baby, and it didn't open
right,
back
the elevator
up.
is still moving somewhere.
And see what I tell people in reference to me doing acting jobs. I did not come to Hollywood to be an actress. I was coming to get a talk show. My agent at the time happened to put a tape in to Larry Little at Big Ticket Television. He said at this very moment, we're not interested in doing a talk show with her, but if she can act, she'll have her own show. They put Countess Vaughn and I together that day at like 1 o'clock. We met, we had a good time. By 5 o'clock that night, they were negotiating the deal for the Parkers. So for me to do an acting job, it's gotta be something that I really wanna do, and it's gotta make sense, because my love and my passion is a talk show host and stand-up comedy.
When did a light go off when it came to you, your weight, and your health? Because I remember the tour where you were killing skinny girls. I remember, I mean,
I never killed skinny girls.
No.
And I won't let you put that on me, Roland.
You were snapping skinny girls.
Don't
even try.
No, baby, this is what I said.
Monique, first of all, I don't even need my own researcher. I got this. I can recall the comedy special.
I said you need to hit them in the top of their head, right?
And Big Sisters were loving you and loving you, the whole piece. And then all of a sudden, when you begin to talk about working out and fitness and health, then people are like, whoa, whoa, what is she doing?
Yes.
What happened there?
The light went off. One day I was in the bathroom, and so was my husband. And he said, Mama, how much do you weigh? And I knew the answer was 300 pounds. I knew it, but I couldn't say that. So I said 266 pounds. And he looked at me and said, that's too much. And I want you for a lifetime. And in that moment, I was embarrassed. I felt guilty.
Were you mad?
I felt ashamed. I was mad as hell.
Because your whole thing was, look, I love who I am,
could not
how I
believe-
look, I don't care what y'all think.
I could not believe he said it out loud. But also, I felt a feeling that I had never felt before. And that was someone loving me unconditionally. And that was when the light went off. Because now I have these 4 children, and 3 of them are small babies. And this man is looking at me eye to eye. And he said, I'll get through this hurt with you, but wait till you get to the other side.
So you didn't. So it's not like your doctor said you have a health crisis. Not like, oh my goodness, you got diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, and all those things.
None of that.
It was that discussion.
It was my best friend, my husband, my brother, my daddy at times saying, if you keep going like you're going, we won't be able to share this life together because you're going to cut it short. And when I say to sisters, and people say, but now you're losing this weight, I'm still 200 pounds. I'm still a big woman. And in this country, I'm still considered obese. So when I say to people, I'm going nowhere, my head is too big to become a size 2. Okay, I'll be like this, Roland, somebody help me. I'm not trying to do that. And my husband loves a curvy woman. All I want to do is make sure I'm healthy enough and make sure I'm strong enough so that I can have that lifetime with my family.
I've talked to reporters, I've talked to directors, I've talked to producers, I've talked to Hollywood executives. They said, Mo Nique's biggest problem, Mo Nique will not be a huge star again. Mo Nique will not be as large as she can be until she gets rid of her husband from being her manager. That's who is screwing it up for.
I was doing a radio interview with V103, Ryan Cameron and Wanda Smith, beautiful brother and sister. Mm-hmm. And Wanda asked the same question to Sydney. You know, could you be overprotective because you're so close? And the question will be, well, what's the reverse? Do you want someone that's not going to be protective? Do you want someone that's not going to be close to it? And when you have someone saying to me and Sydney in a meeting, y'all sit back and let me take care of you. Y'all just handle the sexy stuff. We'll take care of the business stuff. And then my husband says to this gentleman, what man takes care of you and your family? And then it becomes silent. And then it's, oh, Mo Nique's husband is a problem. Because Sydney is strong enough to say, let's have a real conversation. I can't just accept what you're saying to me, especially if it doesn't make sense. So we're in a position in our lives to say, we're going to trust in each other. We're going to depend on each other.
Coming up, Mo Nique addresses the blackballed controversy and lets me in on what she's been up to since her Oscar win 5 years ago. And later, Mo Nique breaks down the importance of racial and gender equality in Hollywood.
What people did was took the words that I used and said, Mo Nique said she was blackballed. I never said that.
More of Mo Nique Uncensored when we come back. I want to go to 2009. 2009, you were everywhere.
Yes.
Show on BET, comedy specials, magazine covers. Then all of a sudden, Precious comes out, lots of attention, and then you clean up during the award show. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, you disappear. Where have you been? Where have you been? What have you been doing?
I've been enjoying my family. I've been working. I've been still doing comedy. And I've been doing things, and Sydney and I have been doing things the way that we are choosing to do them. It's not like I couldn't have been on television or couldn't have been back in the movies, but the offers just didn't make sense. And we felt like if we continue to accept the offers that's coming in, what does that leave the little girl who's not here yet? What does that leave for the sisters who are working right now but didn't win that award or wasn't nominated for that award? If I know the kind of offers I was receiving, what are they receiving? So me not being out front, it was by choice. People felt like, oh, well, you got blackballed. I never bought into that because the calls didn't stop coming, the scripts didn't stop, the offers didn't stop, but we just had to take a stand and say, we can't do it for that, guys.
When you say the type of offers, what are you talking about?
You know, I'll give you an example. For Precious, which was an independent film,
Right.
I received $50,000 for that movie. And I had a conversation with Tyler Perry. Sydney and I did separate times. And he said, Monique, because he was trying to explain to me why I should campaign for the Oscar and what it could do for my career. And he said, just the nomination alone, your next movie would be $3 to $5 million. Well, if you win it, it's $6 to $8 million. Well, I won it. And there's not been one offer that's come across from Hollywood of $6 to $8 million. There's not been an offer that's come across from Hollywood that's been $1 million. So when you start receiving the type of offers that say, well, that award means absolutely nothing, and we're getting it from somebody like Mr. Perry saying, this is what you will get if you just get nominated. And we knew it was coming from that brother's heart to say, this is why you should campaign. But just historically, how many women of color that's won this award walk away with multi-million-dollar movie roles once they win it? I'm not saying that it hasn't happened. I just don't know of any because I didn't receive those type of offers.
Is it though a issue though of the quality of the role, or is it the financial offer?
Because it's both. It's both. I mean, when you hear Patricia Arquette and Gwyneth Paltrow, who are our white sisters in this business, and they're saying, we want wage equality. We want to be treated equal. Well, if they're saying it, what do you think we're getting? So the point that's being made here is, guys, at what point do we take a stand and say, we just want equality? When
you actually did the piece with the Hollywood Reporter.
Yes.
And you talked about, and you mentioned blackball. When people hear that, they simply think that means, oh, no one wants to work with you, no one is talking to you, no one is calling. And that's how people view blackball. So it's not, if you were getting offers and you were getting calls, that's not really blackball.
No, it's not blackballed at all. And what people did was took the words that I used and said, Monique said she was blackballed. I never said that. I said, Mr. Daniels told me I was blackballed. Never bought into it. And when I actually play out the whole story, I think the blackball comes from Mr. Daniels, not from Hollywood, just in the way the events took place.
There were demands that were made from her on the Precious campaign that everyone knows about that hurt her.
And when you see someone saying she was very demanding, she had these ridiculous demands and she was very difficult, and no one's ever asked Mr. Daniels, what were Monique's demands? And what was it that made her difficult?
So when you hear that, have you thought back to that period or even other situations and said, well, was I being too demanding? Was my husband, my manager, being too demanding?
What does demanding mean? What does it mean to be demanding? Or to demand something? What does that mean? I'm asking you, Sugar.
Well, no, it is a subjective question.
Okay.
And so obviously one person's demanding could very well mean somebody else's being assertive.
Okay.
One person's demanding could mean somebody else being a tough negotiator. Demanding on one hand could mean being an absolute diva, crazy to work with, and I don't want to see that person again.
Well, I'll give it to you exactly how it happened, and you tell me, was it a demand or a request? We received a call from Lionsgate, the studio, and they said to Sydney, because Monique promoted this movie so well in the States, we would like for her to go to France and do some international promotions and go to the Cannes Film Festival. I said, you know what, Daddy? Haven't really had any time down. I'm going to respectfully decline. We respectfully declined. The studio called again and said, well, if we upgrade her hotel room, and of course we'll fly her first class, and we'll let her stay in France for a few days after the festival, you know, will she do it? Again, I said, no, thank you, guys. I respectfully decline. They came back a third time, and they said, what will it take to get Monique to France? And Sydney said, is there an offer attached to what you're asking? And then they said, oh no, we would never pay for promotions. We can't believe you're asking to be paid for promotions. That's not what we do. And we simply said, we understand, but we can't do it for free. Because I was paid $50,000 for the movie. And when the studio said, well, Mo Nique's business is with Lee Daniels, not with us, we agreed. And my business with Lee Daniels is done. So where in that was there ever a demand?
Did you have any other financial interest in the film that went beyond just making the film?
I actually had a 5% back-end deal. What that was is 5% of, let's say, the J category, when all the money is recouped and all these people are paid and all this is done, and then you get a percentage. Well, to date, I've made about $65,000 from Precious. That's to include the $50,000. So just with residuals and my participation, in total, it's $65,000. So there was no real financial participation for me to do that. And what happens is when people say, well, that's a part of it, that's a part of it. Well, it is a part of it, and I fulfilled that obligation. No one has said Mo Nique breached her contract. No one has said Mo Nique wasn't professional, she didn't follow through. Everything I was supposed to do, I did. All I'm now saying is, well, guys, now you want me to do new business. Now, when you say it gets us more media attention, it gets us more this, it gets us more that. It does, so that you benefit financially. Well, what it gets me is pretty pictures and the hope that you'll like me enough to call me back again. So all I was saying was, guys, I'm okay. I'm good, and I want to spend this time with my family. No demands, no difficulty, and maybe just the word no is what people may consider being difficult, and that's understandable because normally we don't say no. We say yes, and we're in fear of, if I do say no, what will happen? So that's why I'm sitting right here with you right now, simply because the word no was used. We respectfully decline.
When we come back, Mo Nique confronts rumors that she is difficult to work with. Plus, she talks about how she was offered, in her estimation, the lead roles in Lee Daniels' The Butler and the hit Fox drama Empire.
Well, when I watch Mr. Daniels make statements like I was demanding and I was difficult, Mr. Daniels knows that's not true.
Back with more of this primetime edition of NewsOne Now. In terms of how you approached the award season overall,
yes,
in terms of going to these luncheons, going to this event, was it really your position, I don't want to be a part of that, I don't want to do it, pay me to do it, or was it simply you saying, I don't believe I have to do it?
Well, we never asked to be paid to do any promotions here. Any red carpet I've done, any awards, we did it and we were happy to do it. Didn't ask to be paid for it. What I am saying to people is, and when you first started, you said you had the Mo Nique show, you won a comedy tour, the award season was going on, and I live in Georgia, so I'm flying back and forth to LA. Now at the time, I have 4 sons. One is older in his 20s, then I have the 3 little boys. Michael is 11, David and Jonathan are 9, the twins. Well, at the time, the twins were 4, Michael was 6. So I said, guys, any downtime that I do have, which was very little, I'm still a wife and a mommy. And I want to take that time and spend it with my family. Now, people don't know the backstory to that. They just thought, oh, Mo Nique is being grand. Well, the backstory is, this is my 3rd marriage. See, the first 2 marriages, I was chasing and really didn't understand what it was to be a wife and to be married, because I was chasing the fantasy of fame and the dream of being a star in Hollywood. So my prayer was, please give me another chance. Give me another chance to be a wife. Give me another chance to be a mommy. And those prayers were answered. So now what do? Say, well, let me just go and do this one more time and see what happens. I was no longer willing to take that risk.
So do you believe that you are being penalized in some way for making family a priority?
I've never bought into that. Like, I've never bought into what all the hype is right now about this blackballed and blacklisted. I don't see where I've been penalized at all. We're just doing it a different way. And there are some people that say, why are you doing that? why are you making some noise? Why are you shaking this up? If I gotta take the bumps and bruises of people saying, why would you and how could you? And what I'm saying is, how could we not? And why would we not? Why would we not speak up and say, we just want to be treated fairly? Why would we not speak up to a director and say, what you're saying is a lie? And I know I should, let me not, because lie could be so harsh. What you're saying are false statements that you know not to be true.
And when you say false, what's that? What's false?
Well, when I watch Mr. Daniels make statements like I was demanding and I was difficult, Mr. Daniels knows that's not true, because he and I have never had an issue at all. And if I were that person, why ever would you offer me the role of Gloria in The Butler? If I were that person, why ever would you offer me the role of Cookie in Empire?
Were you offered the role of Gloria in The Butler, or as well as Cookie, or were you asked to simply read for the part?
Anytime I've ever done business with Mr. Daniels, I get a call from the director. I get offered the part, and that's it. That's the only way we've ever done business. When he called me for Empire, when I've done Shadowboxer, it was a call from Mr. Daniel. When I did Precious, it was a call from Mr. Daniel. There was no hold, there was no nothing. It was just a call from him. I accepted. We began to do business. When I get the call for Empire, he says to me, you know, I'm new to this TV thing. You a Cookie, but you got to do some screen test because it's technical.
Right.
But then we began to talk about the character. We laughed and joked about it. That was it. That's the only way we've ever done business. To do a screen test, knock on wood, I've never screen tested before. So when he said it was technical, okay, brother, because it's you, you got it. So I didn't think it was anything different from the other ways that we've ever done business.
What do you make of the comments from him, from Danny Strong, saying, well, no, you weren't offered that role, and you saying, no, it was clearly I was?
You know, Roland, because you were able to see the email. You were able to read what that email was.
And for the folks who are watching, what emails are you talking about?
The emails I'm talking about is when I was offered the role in The Butler for Gloria, that came from Mr. Daniels. When I was offered the role for Cookie in Empire, that came from Mr. Daniels' office. And I wanted you to see that so that people, it's not something that's just out in the air. And when Mr. Strong tweeted out to the world, setting the record straight, Mo Nique was never offered The Butler or Empire, I tweeted that brother back and I said, Mr. Strong, will you speak as loudly when you realize that you're wrong? Now, I have no animosity towards either one of those brothers, and I understand what Mr. Strong is doing. He's defending his friend. And if his friend says to him, that did not happen, he's being a friend and a great business partner. And what I say to both of those brothers is clear my name, guys. Just clear my name, because you could affect my reputation. And I've always taken pride in my work ethic and my reputation. And it could be affected because people could buy into what you're saying.
When the last time you talked to Lee? Have you chatted with him since all of this, since your discussion with the Hollywood Reporter, since his interviews and other media outlets?
The last time I talked to Lee Daniels was when he called me up and he said, the executives at Fox said that you were difficult to work with. And I told them, well, let you be my difficulty. And I said, Lee, why ever would you say that to them? Because now it's like you're buying into me being this difficult person. Why would you say, let me be your difficulty? We ain't never had any problems. So then he says, well, Mama, you've been blackballed and I can't let you mess with my money. Well, why have I been blackballed? You didn't play the game. Well, what game is that? And it never got answered. And then he says, well, your husband's outbidding you, but never said, what are y'all asking for? And then it became, okay, I gotta go, girl, because I'm so busy. That's the last time Mr. Daniels and I have spoken.
Do you believe that this has destroyed or fractured that relationship? Because he says, look, great talent, I would love to work with her, love to do stuff with her.
Because I know Lee. And when you watch him on Don Lemon and he says, I deal with my demons.
I have my own demons.
And there was a time that I had a serious problem. I know Lee. And I love that brother. And I have empathy for him. Because now, everything that you said you wanted, it now appears that you have. But when you then go on TV and you tell things that you and I both know is not true, there's a problem there. If Mr. Daniels called me today and said, hey, Can we sit down and talk? Of course we can.
Would you call him to have that conversation?
I no longer have Mr. Daniels' number. And what I would do is have the conversation publicly. Because what you've shown me is our private conversations, once you get public, it becomes something different. I'm never willing to play that game. And when you make statements like, they said, people are saying, well, I heard, that's playground talk. Remember we were kids on the playground and somebody said, Roland, I heard that such and such. Well, who you hear from? Then you find out that there was no one that said it and it's coming from you, but you just wasn't courageous enough to say, well, that's the way I feel.
When we return, Mo Nique says her Oscar-winning speech in 2009 could be the reason for the fallout with Lee Daniels. The view coming out of, again, liberal Hollywood is, oh, we just don't think mass audience is going to watch it. And in fact, I go back to bringing up Empire. You look at the numbers. They're going, how of a sudden are the ratings going up every single week?
And I
What's going on?
must say this about Empire for my sister Taraji P. Henson. She should be one of the highest paid women in television right now, because the numbers that she and Terrence Howard and that amazing cast is putting up never been done in history.
You're watching NewsOne Now, Mo Nique Uncensored, right here on TV One.
Me and Mr. Daniels' relationship, see, it goes back. It goes back to the Oscars. Well, the night of the Oscars, because I did not say his name directly, what I did say was, I want to thank my precious family. And let me tell you why I said that. Because this movie was the little engine that could. Before it went to Sundance, the talk from the studios was, whoever wants to see two fat black women on TV. She was born the summertime, remember that?
I was born in November.
November. See, I took those calls from Mr. Daniels late at night when he felt like he wasn't getting the respect that he deserved, because he's brilliant. Not until we went to Utah to Sundance did it get all of the hoopla then. So when I say to my precious family, I was talking to the brothers that cleaned that stage at night, all the way up to the director, to the studios, and to the producers. I could not single anyone out, because it took every last one of us to make that very special film happen. But because I didn't single him out, he felt like I was being disrespectful, because he called after the Oscars, was really upset. How could you not say my name? It was the Oscars. I said, Lee, first of all, I've said your name so many times before. If you watch the Golden Globes back, I've sung your praises at every award show, every interview. This night, I had something that I really wanted to say. But you're angry at me for what I didn't say. But I'm not angry at you for what you did say when you accepted the award in London at the BAFTA Awards. See, I knew I wasn't going to be able to go there because, again, it was some downtime for my family. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to attend, but please tell them babies I love them. Thank you so much. I'm spending time with my family, and I appreciate that they would give me that award. Now, you can Google it and see what Mr. Daniels says when he walks up on that stage to accept that award. The first thing he says is, Mo Nique's so mad at y'all. Now, when he and I talked, I said, why would you say that? Like, you got me looking like I'm unappreciative. I'm mad at the brothers and sisters of England. Why would you say that? You know how I get when I get nervous. I said, but you're getting nervous could really make it appear as if I'm unappreciative. Well, I think that was all a part of the beginning of the blackball. I think that was the beginning of it, because things just were not making sense. You call me, you offer me something. When he offered me Gloria from The Butler, we talked about it, we laughed, we was having a good time. I got the script. Then I never heard from this brother again. What I do see is Oprah Winfrey now signed up. You never gave me a courtesy call to say, hey, sis, the big Odin signed on. We all know what that means. And what I would have said to that brother is, baby, go get him. Because I know how bad he wants it. Go get him. But I never received that courtesy call. You called me up for Empire. Now, Lee and I know we had that conversation. You know we had the conversation. But then I'm difficult, and it goes away. You offer me the grandmother in the Richard Pryor biopic. Never hear from you again. So when someone says you've been blackballed, it feels like it's stemming back because I simply did not say your name, the night of the Oscars. Now again, not pulling it out the air. Anything I'm saying, we have the communication to show it. And what I am not, Roland, I'm big on integrity. I'm big on that. And I'm big on character. And that's what we teach our children. We teach them that. It's about your integrity and your character. And you never want them in question, because the moment that becomes in question, it can begin to affect your livelihood. What I can't do is allow someone else to do it with me.
When we come back, Mo Nique says the winning the Oscar was not the highlight of her career.
The Oscar for me wasn't the be-all to end-all. I'm appreciative of every award.
I'm Roland Martin, and you're watching our NewsOne Now primetime special on TV One. Chris Rock
Yes.
penned a cover story in the same magazine that you gave an interview to, The Hollywood Reporter,
Okay.
where he said that, let's just cut to the chase, Hollywood is a white industry. He talked about being African American and giving other brothers and sisters a shot, knowing full well that a funny white guy, he said, he's gonna get a bunch of shots. This brother or sister may get very few shots. When you look at that, when you talk about those roles, your perspective on that.
It's the elephant in the room. But now we can see the elephant. We're no longer saying, we all know it's there, but shh, don't say anything. It's what it is. And until we take a stand and say something else has to be done. And here's the thing, and this is one thing that Sidney explained to me. He said, you know, Mama, he said, it's not that they're bad people. See, we want to make it seem like, oh, they're bad people in Hollywood. It's not that they're bad people. It's just conditioning and tradition. Tradition, and oftentimes we're afraid to mess with it. If it's conditioned that, listen, y'all know you don't get the high wages. You know you don't get the great roles. It's just what it's been. Until someone brings it to someone's attention and say, hey, let's sit down at the table and let's really discuss it. And that's what gets minds to changing. When we devalue our awards, when we devalue our accomplishments, we're then saying, listen, we believe what you're saying. We believe if we sign up with you, it's better. So when I say, hey guys, the Oscar for me wasn't the be-all to end-all. I'm appreciative of every award. But watching the Oscar award as a younger woman, I didn't see people that looked like me go up on that stage and get that award. But when the Image Award came around, they looked like me. So my dream of coming to Hollywood, when I stood in the bathroom mirror with the brush in my hand giving my acceptance speech, it was for the Image Award. It was that little girl saying, one day they're gonna call my name. So when they first called my name for the Image Award, that was the moment for me that said, wow, dreams really do come true. So I think too, people were looking for me to respond differently and for me to act differently. And because I didn't act and respond the way people thought that I should, oh, Mo Nique is shunning it. I never shunned anything.
Speaking of that, the following year, and again, as a part of this, perception is reality. Mo Nique shuns the Oscars. Were you asked to present the following year?
I was.
And why'd you say
no? I was asked to present the following year. Again, I live in Georgia. So I simply said, okay, guys, I don't have any problem with that. I'll hold them to tradition, but you gotta fly me and my team out. And you gotta pay for my team of people, because I'm coming to your award show to present an award to someone else.
So your team, that's what?
Hair, makeup, wardrobe. You gotta look the part. You gotta walk the carpet. You gotta give the award. So I simply said, I would love to do it. We would love to do it, but this is what it's gonna take to get me there. Oh, we don't do that. No problem. We can't do it either. It's like our no's become difficult and become a problem.
Do you believe that the system somehow believes that we should accept less than, because that has always been the case? And how do we then get those to understand that, who say, you know what, you really shouldn't fight that. You should just go ahead and just take the role. Just take it. If they're gonna pay you $500,000, take the $500,000. But look, Mo Nique, they're not gonna offer you $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or $5 million. It's not gonna come. So just take the $5. What are you doing?
I can't accept that. Because again, I have children. And there's a little girl who's not here yet. That's dependent on us to make it different when she knock on the door. Because see, that's what Hattie did for me. That's what so many did before I came along. So many took the abuse. So many had no options. So many had to take whatever was thrown their way. So for all the ones that came before me that said, Mo Nique, you don't have to endure that. You can go a different route. I'm grateful for that.
So what do you say to the folks who said, oh, this is why Mo Nique is talking. Mo Nique talking because Mo Nique ain't got no money. Mo Nique is broke. Mo Nique is telling her story and doing all these interviews because Mo Nique needs a check.
Well, here's what I would say. Mo Nique hasn't asked anyone to give her anything. Mo Nique and Sydney, we willing to earn ours. We have pizza night at the Hicks residence every Friday night. That hasn't stopped yet. So we good. What Mo Nique is saying is, at what point do we take a stand?
In a few moments, Mo Nique will talk about the independent film Blackbird and share her excitement about being castmates with Queen Latifah in the upcoming HBO biopic, Bessie.
I'm ashamed of you, Randy. Before God, you have shamed us. I cannot believe you crawled forth from my body into this earth to fornicate fruitlessly like a craven beast.
I'm Roland Martin, and you're watching our NewsOne Now primetime special on TV1. So let's talk about these independent projects.
Yes.
Blackbird.
How could you be so selfish? And you know the Lord is watching us. You know we're being tested. But so what? So what? You still indulge in your depravity. I'm ashamed of you, Randy. Before God, you have shamed us. I cannot believe you crawled forth from my body into this earth to fornicate fruitlessly like a craven beast. Am I to have no children? Is that my fate? To lose the both of you?
Mom, I'm sorry.
Don't you do that. Don't you do that. Don't you tell me you're sorry when you're not.
This was your first role since Precious, correct?
Yes.
What was it about this film that you said, you know what, I need to do this?
You know, Isaiah reached out to our attorney, Ricky Anderson. We share the same attorney. And he said, Rick, I got to get this script over to Mo Nique and Sydney because I really think it's something that they would want to sink their teeth in. And Roland, when we got that script, after the first page, we knew we wanted to be involved. And I got the same feeling I got with Precious after page 10. Well, after you get finished page 1 of Blackbird, your mouth drops open and you say, somebody's going to be brave enough to tell this story. And I know that story because at 16 years old, I was introduced to these beautiful young gay black men. And they were just friendly and loving and sweet, and they embraced me with no judgment, and I wasn't this fat girl, I was just this chunky diva, honey, and they just made me feel so beautiful. So when I read the script, I knew that story. And Sydney and I said, let's sign on as executive producers, and we have real ownership. Not a back end that you'll never see, but we have real ownership of this project. And to be able to tell the story in its rare form and its honesty, we truly believe people will walk away with a different heart and a different mind and a willingness to accept themselves for who they were made to be, and a willingness for those parents or those family members that's saying, let's love each other through this process because we really don't understand it, because we've been told it's a sin. We've been told how bad it is, but people are being devastated and going through a not so happy life trying to live up to someone else's expectation.
You spoke of Blackbird opening in April and the other projects.
The other project is this movie called About, and really excited about it because again, it's the little film that could, but we believe the people will speak louder. With the comedy special, Something Different. And Sydney and I wanted to do something different.
Where's that airing? Is it going to be independent?
The comedy
Are you
special,
going to try to do a Netflix or Hulu or something?
We're weighing out our options right now to see which makes sense.
Okay, options means who has the bigger check, right?
Listen, Roland, you better say it to the audience so they understand. But it's whatever makes sense. And in listening to Richard Pryor, I have been listening to him, and for me, his best work happened in the nightclub, in that comedy club, when it's intimate, You hear the glasses clinging. You can hear them pulling on their cigarettes. You can hear the waitress butt hitting the back of somebody's head. So we took it back to the comedy club to where those people gave me my beginning.
Bessie Smith, HBO.
Bessie Smith, HBO, May 16th. Queen Latifah, her performance, in my humble opinion, is the best to date. And to be able to work with a legend of our time and an icon, what a blessing. HBO, see, again, that's why I can't buy into the blackball thing, because HBO called, and they called fair, and they called so real. They say HBO is home box office. Me and Sydney say it stands for helping blacks out, because they were so fair. I got paid more from HBO in 8 days in my career than I've ever gotten before, in 8 days. So when you come fair, and you come with, we just want to pay you based on your resume, not the color of your skin, not your gender, just based on your resume. That's how we like to play, as Mr. Daniels would say, the game. That you can play the game, but there's a good game and there's a bad game. And the game that Mo Nique wants to play is when I get to the end of my journey, I don't want to have any regrets for mistreating someone. I don't want to have any regrets for selling my integrity. When I get to the end of my journey, Roland, you know who I want to be around my bed?
Who?
My family. And if I should go before my husband, I want my husband there. And we're looking at each other eye to eye. And we're saying, what a good time we had on this ride. And my children are saying, along with their children, what a good time we had on this ride. I don't think when I get to the end of my journey, I'll have the memories of the night I won the Oscar. I want the memories of the day I got married to Sydney, the day we had our babies, the day we went to that first football game, the day their little hearts got broken for the first time, their wedding, their babies. I want those things. So for the people out there that can't understand that, I understand. And I don't judge you for you saying, when I go away from here, I want the memories of all of my awards. I want the memories of all the people that love me. I want the memories of all the movies I made. I respect that and understand it. I want those kind of memories, baby, that I leave with a smile on my face, knowing job well done with your family.
Well, I certainly want to thank Mo Nique for sitting down with us here at NewsOne Now on TV One and having the conversation with us. And of course, you can always catch more of us every single day right here on TV One at 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm Roland Martin. Be sure to have a good night.